Welcome into another episode of Heatin' Up. This is episode 4. It is only the third one we've all been together. Cody and I jumped on right after the Auburn UConn game to kind of give a little game reaction. So we'll call it episode 4 because it's the fourth time we're going to post something. But we are recording this on Wednesday night, December 1st, right after the Auburn UCF game. I got Cody and Riley in here with me. Guys, let's jump straight into that game since it's fresh. Just finished the game. Auburn with a win, 85-68 over UCF. That game's in Auburn. Sellout crowd again, 9,121. Tigers improved to 6-1. And I didn't know the stat till I heard it on the broadcast. 36 straight non-conference home wins. You know, there's not a ton of big competition in that, but there's probably 12, 13, 14 games against a really good team. So I thought that was something that jumped out. But we just finished the game. Riley, let's start with you. What kind of jumped out to you about Auburn after seeing them kind of go through the Thanksgiving tournament and now play that game at home against a pretty decent opponent in UCF?
Yeah, I thought they responded well. I think that starting out the Thanksgiving tournament, they played with a lot of energy, and Katie Johnson was really good. Jabari was really good. I think those guys, Walker Kessler struggled against UConn, but he kind of came on late the last two games when they beat Loyola Chicago, and then they beat who was the last game they played?
Syracuse.
Syracuse, yeah, he played really well. He was a big against Syracuse's big men, but he had a great game today. Walker Kessler was great. I thought the energy was good. You know, the first half, UCF got a lot of easy shots. They got some open threes, but then the second half, you saw the defense kind of take over, and they started turning over UCF and making them take tough twos. And Kessler was really good. He rebounded the ball really well. I think he had 5 or 6 blocked shots, but he was altering a lot of shots.
Mhm.
So,
Cody, do you have a stat line in front of you right there, Walker Kessler?
No, I don't.
I think I had him, if I remember correctly, maybe 17 and 14.
17, 14.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking about blocks. I'm pretty sure he had 5 blocks tonight.
I've got him. Yeah, 6. Okay. Yeah, that's impressive. I thought he was definitely a difference maker. UCF had a big guy in there too, but you could just tell the difference in skill level between those guys, big time. Let me ask you a little bit about press breaks. UCF just kind of tried, and they had a few Auburn turnovers that led to something. I don't know if that's the strategy I would have, but I see, like, especially at the college level, there's kind of 2 ways to go against a press break. And early on, Auburn was being very methodical on how they were doing it. And then I thought later after that, especially Wendell Green just kind of was faster than the other guys, and he'd split guys and they'd kick ahead. What's kind of the thought process, especially Riley, when you've been there? When do you want to kind of methodically go against the press? When do you want to try to speed it up and just beat it down there? Or does it depend on your personnel, or kind of what's the thought process there?
Well, as an offensive player, I think the best scenario for you on breaking the press is obviously holding them to a missed shot, because after a free throw or made shot, they're getting to the press. But I think anytime Auburn, if you watch, they had Wendell Green. When he was in there, or even Jabari was bringing the ball up a few times. I saw who was it? It was Williams. He brought the ball up as well. He was breaking it, and they couldn't stop him. He was making some good decisions. But I think a lot of the time you can overpass. I think that's when Auburn got in trouble in the first half on some turnovers, or overpassing. They were trying to dribble too much. But Wendell Green's just so hard to keep in front of him. I mean, he's a one-man press break in himself, and then it was creating easy 3-point baskets or even drop-offs for Kessler. But I think anytime you get him on a missed shot, obviously they can't get into it, and so it's easy to run the ball up the court.
Cody, let's kind of jump right into point guard play then. That's something I think Zep Jasper played a little bit more, I feel like, at point tonight. I don't know what Bruce was mad at Wendell about. They're very different players. Zep was really bringing the energy on defense, and then he's more of a just set up the offense kind of guy. He doesn't see everything out there like a natural point guard, in my opinion. Wendell Green's the opposite. I don't know if he's not giving them what they want on defense, but he's just a natural point guard. He makes some incredible passes, hit a couple deep threes. What are your thoughts on tonight and just the last few games, point guard situation with Zep and Wendell?
Yeah, kind of go back to your press break. In my experience, breaking the press is just really nice to have somebody, or a dominant ball or handling guard that can just break it by himself with a lot of speed. And I've seen that a lot more with Wendell in tonight. And when he gets in transition, like you said, he's pretty potent because he has a 3-point range from deep, and then he's also, to me, he has the better knack for passing the ball in transition and finding the open man. Zep, he played really well tonight. I mean, both guys played well. Like you said, Wendell kind of had the reins pulled back on him. It seemed like a little bit tonight, more so than normal, but maybe he had bad practice leading up to it. I'm not sure, but Zep, like you mentioned, just kind of when things or get grungy or get slowed down a little bit, he seems to navigate that landscape just a little bit better. It's nice to have those type of play styles that we can rotate between, but I don't know. Both of them had solid games tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, looking at some more team stats, Auburn went 10 of 32 from the 3-point line. That's good enough, I guess, if you're getting stuff on the other side. +3 rebounding, 17 of 22 from the free throw line. This team continues to be a good free throw shooting team. I think part of that is KD Johnson's the one going to the line. He's a pretty good free throw shooter. Jabari's the one going to the line. He's a really good free throw shooter. Walker Kessler's actually a pretty good free throw shooter as well. 16 assists in this game, 7 more than UCF had. Let's move over to the wing a little bit. Devin Cambridge got a couple wide open looks early, knocked him down. Thought he was pretty solid, just kind of doing his role, catch and shoot, go up and he got a big oop early in the game. But the thing I wanted to ask about, Lior Berman seemed to take over and get a lot of playing time tonight. It seemed like he moved ahead of Chris Moore most of the night. It was a weird lineup when Auburn actually went on its run early in the second half. I think it was both Wendell and Zep out there, and Lior, and I think Jalen and Kessler. I don't think Jabari was out there. I don't think KD was out there. What did y'all see out of Lior? And what can you do? Like, if you're that walk-on guy, what can you prove out there to say, hey, I can play with these guys?
Well, man, he came out like gangbusters against Syracuse too. I think he banked one in. It was one to foul. They had one. He's fearless.
Two threes in that game. Two threes tonight.
Yeah, he's fearless. And gets after it on defense. I mean, obviously he's probably bringing it during practice. I'm sure he's earning that PT for Bruce. He's want to give that guy a shot. And like you said, Chris Moore kind of faltered to the back right there. And then when Flan comes back, it's just if he can maintain this level of play, I'm not saying he can, but hopefully he can. That rotation is going to get tight. So, but I like what I see from him. It's a kind of a breath of fresh air, especially at home. It gets the crowd pumped. Guy that's not, supposed to be in a rotation impact the game, but he's out there making big plays, big key plays.
Like what's your thought there, Riley? Like, how do you earn that time, and then how do you stay out there? If you just look out there and you don't feel like you belong, but have you ever been on a team where you feel like, hey, there's some guys that could really help, like they make a difference in practice, or when they actually get in the game, they make something happen. Tell me about that situation a little bit.
Yeah, I think that for Berman, I think it's all about doing whatever you do very good. You don't have to do a lot of things. They're not asking you to go in there and dribble and come off ball screens. They're asking you to, spot up, knock down the open three. If you catch it, don't have a shot, move it. Then defensively, just bring energy. I saw he took a charge tonight, which was really good. I mean, you keep taking charges, Bruce is going to play you. You keep playing hard on defense, Bruce is going to play you. He did have a couple touch fouls, but I mean, the way Auburn's defense is built is, I mean, that's going to happen. There's really aggressive, and I think, but his biggest thing is for him to keep playing is, I think practice has something to do with it. I don't really know. Like you said, Wendell Green looked like he was kind of pulled back a little bit. I don't know if, like you said, he had a rough few practices or what's really going on, but I mean, it's an opportunity for other guys to step up. I still think Bruce and Nate and everybody right now is trying to figure out who their go-to lineups are, who can come off the bench and create a spark and try to get the crowd into it. Because once you get the crowd into it, especially at Auburn, it's tough for opposing teams to go on runs and end up winning.
Cody, let's move on to that kind of that forward position. Let's start with Jalen Williams a little bit because I know he's a guy you like to talk about. I thought he had another very efficient game, came off the bench. Looks like he had 7 points. He was 3 of 5, had a couple rebounds and assists. Riley said earlier he did a pretty good job of getting the ball down the court, when they were just staying with the point guard. Hey, just get it back to he or Jabari can handle it enough to get it across. What'd you think of Jalen tonight, Cody? He's also playing some backup five. They went away from Cardwell for a minute, and he was playing with Jabari a good bit.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to try to hit on. Was it's kind of a testament to how vital he is to our team, especially that second unit. They're playing him at the five a lot, taking a lot of Cardwell's minutes that we were thinking that he was going to have before going into the season. Tonight, like none of the stats were didn't real pop out, but that's kind of how he is every night. He's just real solid. And he's always had a knack for playmaking, and this is kind of, we'll hopefully touch on it or later on in the pod, but this is kind of something I've kind of noticed in between the Auburn and Alabama is a guy at the forward position being able to play make for other people, get people open, look for open shooters and stuff. It seems to be those are the hardest shots. Auburn and Alabama both feast at 3-point line, get up and down the court, transition buckets. But when things start slowing down, high post touches, and you start looking for some post action, it's really nice to have somebody like Jalen Williams who's been there, done that, and knows what kind of passes are there, especially when he's paired with Jabari Smith that can, put the ball in the hole.
Let's move over to Jabari then for a minute. Riley, another kind of pro game for Jabari, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 50% from the field, 50% from 3 of 6. Just another thing where he seems like he's on a different level, especially offensively. Long, had a couple deflections and steals too. Talk to me about Jabari a little bit. And then, you played with a guy, Colin Sexton, who was going to be a one and done, and what kind of pressure is on them to, really produce every night? Every game's on TV. Everybody's kind of looking at them. The NBA draft guys are going to be looking all the time. Tell me about first of all, talk about what you saw at a Jabari tonight, and then second, just playing with somebody that's got a little pressure on them like that.
Yeah, I thought Jabari did a really good job tonight of not forcing the issue. A lot of freshmen, especially like you said, they're projected lottery picks coming into the season. They're 18 years old. They're new to the game. And it's a little bit different. I mean, it's a little bit of adjustment. It still will be. But I thought he played really well. I was really impressed with his threes. I didn't know, coming out of high school, I knew he was long and athletic and could finish around the rim. But you kind of, when everybody's as long and as athletic as you, most nights, they got one or two guys on the opposing team. What can you do to make yourself stand out? And his 3-point jumper looked really good. Even the ones that didn't go in. But I think that's going to translate to the next phase of the NBA game, because it's moving to that kind of game where can the big man shoot threes? But I think the pressure-wise, Colin you could feel it. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell because he was so aggressive. Him and Jabari are alike in a way that when Colin's on the floor, he wanted to make plays. He's more of a score first guard, but at the same time, he share the ball. I mean, he's a great teammate and listen to you. But I think Jabari, having KD on the floor with him, Wendell Green to make some shots. You got Kessler inside to block shots, change shots. I think it takes a lot of pressure off him. He's not feeling like he's got to do everything, guard the best player, block shots, rebound every single ball, score every point. And it's kind of making him more susceptible to playing his own game and kind of what he did in high school. And I mean, he was an All-American, so it's kind of showing, but I don't know. I don't think you can kind of tell because, some games he may force some shots and that might be kind of the pressure, but for the most part, I've been really impressed with him and his composure. And obviously, looking at the draft boards, he's impressed a lot of people.
Yeah, so far he's pretty much consensus top 5 is what I've seen. And, they're starting to say the Duke guy, Banchero, and Holmgren at 1. Well, Jabari might be right there behind him, kind of looking at him. They say he's a year younger than them, so he's getting a little bit, a little push right now.
I looked at the NBA Draft Net was one of the ones 6 days ago. They came out with one, and they had Chet Holmgren, and they had Jaden Hardy, who's in the G League right now, then Banchero, and then Jabari at 4. But then I look at Sports Illustrated, who came out a couple of weeks ago, and they had Jabari going number 2 behind Banchero. So I mean, he's in that top 4 range. He could go anywhere depending on. It's a lot of season left, so it'll be fun to watch.
So far, I haven't seen much weakness. There really hadn't been one area that you're like, man, if he could just do this a lot better, get better this way. Cody, what are you seeing on Jabari?
Oh, well, let's get crazy here for a second. So to me, he's everything you would want in as far as a draft prospect, especially with. So to me, guards come a dime a dozen, and you can find a guard that can make it to the next level in multiple spots here in the draft. But somebody that's he's listed 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan, and it can shoot the ball, and every time he shoots it, I feel like it's going in. That there's a lot of big men. Evan Mobley that got drafted, he's having a really good year this year, and big men that can stretch the floor. I feel like we kind of really push that they can shoot. Like they can stretch the floor. You got to respect their shot, but you don't really, if they're shooting 30%, around 30%, that's acceptable. But to me, Jabari is, like a bona fide really good shooter. Somebody that I don't know. It feels confident. The shot feels confident. Feels like it's going in every time he shoots it.
Go along with your point, Cody. Not to interrupt you, but to go along, you're right in a way that there's a ton of guards that are going to be drafted and that can score the ball and can do all the other stuff. But if the two, different mock drafts I mentioned all have Chet Holmgren, who's 7'2" and can he's really skilled, can shoot the ball. Banchero is listed at 6'9" or 6'10" and can handle and shoot the ball. And then Jabari Smith, they're all three are skilled big man, and that's what the NBA, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and somebody, I know this is Auburn Alabama pod, but if you watched Golden State and Phoenix last night, was it last night or 2 nights ago?
Last night.
You see somebody like DeAndre Ayton able to guard out on the perimeter, or not. Jabari's showing that to me anyway against college talent. So that's just another mark for him is being able to guard if he gets switched in pick and rolls or wherever he can guard a guard. That's just my thoughts on that.
To me, what makes him elite, now I'm right there with y'all, and I know it's crazy to say, but like what makes him elite is there are a few guys that can do some of that stuff, like a Mobley, like you're saying, or even Embiid that can move his feet a little bit, a Towns that can shoot big and move his feet. Jabari can handle too. Now we'll see. He starts going against better competition and better players, but like I have no worry when he's bringing the ball up the court. He hits transition threes. Like there just aren't many guys out there. There's going to be Kevin Durant comparisons. I know that's Riley's guy, but he doesn't look like Kevin Durant as a 31-year-old, but as an 18-year-old, he's pretty dang close. I haven't seen many other guys you can really compare him to.
The one part of his game that I really haven't seen, and that's interesting because down the line, I want to see if they're going to do it. What if Kessler gets in foul trouble or he's having an off night and they move him over to the 5? Can he guard a big inside presence? I'm not saying he can't. I just haven't seen it. And that's the one thing I'd be interested to see is, which I don't know if anybody is guarding the guy from UConn down low. That dude was massive. But a solid big man that can score for his back to the goal, and he's having to guard him, which honestly, I don't even know if they would put him at they probably make him guard someone else and let Williams or somebody slide over. But that's the one aspect, is at the NBA level, if they move him to the 5 because he is 6'10" and he's long, can he guard the Embiids of the world or someone like that? But
I think that's fair.
That's the one little thing I guess you can point out. This kind of
he's long enough to do it. He'll be able to affect shots. Even if he gets bullied a little bit.
So he's going to get stronger and bigger, but it'd be interesting to see.
Well, it sure is fun to have that guy on our team. And if I was LSU and he was a Legacy and didn't come there, I'd be pretty upset watching him at Auburn. But good win for the Tigers. They move on Saturday to play Yale. Yale's picked to win the Ivy League. They've got a few losses already this year. They're like 138 in KenPom, so I was a little surprised by that. They did have they're the 300th most luckiest team. So they have been one of the most unlucky teams in college basketball this year. So I always kind of be a little nervous playing Ivy League school. They come in there running some back cut garbage and make you look stupid.
Offenses, baby.
Yeah, so that'll be fun Saturday. I think it's on ESPNU at 1 o'clock. I'm going to try to be in the house for that one. That'll be good. Let's move on to a little bit, just kind of big picture stuff coming off. We won't break down every single game, but Thanksgiving tournament, starting with Auburn. They are in Atlanta. Got that loss against 2 overtime loss against UConn that Cody and I talked about. Followed that up with a couple good wins, I think. A couple maybe tournament-type teams. Loyola Chicago won by 9, 62-53. Beat Syracuse pretty badly, 89-68. So I'd say a successful trip for Auburn. Alabama was at some made-up tournament. Well, ESPN didn't even name that one. They didn't even get a sponsor on it. They just call it the ESPN tournament.
Events Invitational, baby.
They got beat by Iona by 4, and then wins over Drake by 9 and Miami by 32 after being kind of a close game. Let's throw it to Riley first. You don't have to break it down game by game, but just kind of tell me some thoughts coming out of that tournament. Do you feel better about the Alabama team? The same, worse? What are you thinking?
So switching to Alabama, I think you figured out. I think it's never good to lose. I mean, as a competitor, you don't want to lose, but I think it's good to get exposed early. And that's why you play tough teams in the beginning of the season. So that way you're not late in the season and end of February getting beat bad and you don't know why. But I think transition, free throws is what really hurt them against Iona.
I was going to say, well, let's just stay there then. Why did Alabama lose that game? What are some things that are concerning coming out of that one specifically?
Yeah, I think the free throw shooting was very concerning. To be such a, three-heavy team where they should get a lot of threes up, and they've never really – they didn't struggle last year from the free throw line that bad, but 13 of 25, so 52% from the free throw line is just kind of – it's one of those where it's a head-scratcher. You lose the game by 4. I mean, it's a one-possession game late, and you miss, 12 free throws. So, obviously, that's a big key, but – Rick Pitino had a great game plan going into the game. I mean, they were running them off the three-point line, making it hard. They were 5 of 17 from 3, so they didn't get a lot of threes up that they would like. But it's good to play that kind of – I mean, obviously you don't want to lose any game, but to kind of get some exposure and to fix what you need. And then they beat a good Drake team next, and then Miami's not the usual Miami, but they end up winning pretty big. But they shot the ball well the last game. I think some key takeaways, even for Auburn too, that I had wrote down were they both finished strong after a 0-1 start. Auburn, loses a tough one to UConn, and it's kind of like, did they spend all their energy trying to fight back in that one game, or it was kind of going both ways, and it ended up, 2 big wins for Auburn, 2 big wins for Alabama to kind of get some momentum going into first week in December, and then. Also late, Auburn had some close games, especially obviously the UConn game. Alabama had some close games. So trying to figure out which 5 players are better together and who you're going to go to in crunch time. I think that's going to bring up some questions and some answers you want to figure out before you go. I know Alabama's got Gonzaga this week, and Auburn's got Nebraska coming up soon, and some good opponents. But those are some key takeaways that I think moving forward. Hopefully they can start to figure out some rotations and stuff like that.
Do you have any problem with how they ended the game in the Iona game? I know there was some weird substitution stuff where Shackelford came out right before the media timeout, and then there wasn't a dead ball for like 2.5 minutes, and you missed some big possessions with Shackelford not out on the court. If he's going to be your guy, it was kind of a weird thing.
And too late, I was talking to some people about it. It was – Keon Ellis is considered probably our best on-ball defender. He's really active. He's 6'6", and he's kind of long, and he can guard multiple positions. And, he got beat two plays late. One of them was a 3, and the next one I believe was a, one dribble, 2 dribble pull-up that were huge buckets for them late, and they had a player that was feeling it. And it's kind of those possessions where last year, who was getting them was hurt. And, he was going to make it hard for them to score. And I figured out this is, this year is kind of where we're trying to figure out, we got to make – I mean, it's a tough shot to make, but I think, late in the game, it was 2 or 3 minutes where it was just running back and forth with no dead ball. So, like you said, Shackelford never could get back into the game. But it's good for guys like Bediako, for J.D. Davison to play games like that, because being freshmen – it kind of gets you, playing in blowouts all the time. But like I said, it was kind of iffy. I feel like if we got a couple stops late, then Alabama would have been able to, pull away.
Yeah, I thought the rebounding kind of reared its head a little bit late too. They had a couple offensive rebounds in the last 3 minutes. Yeah, I hate to single out Keon Ellis, but he missed a box out and it really cost him big time. And then, I mean, y'all have watched more Alabama than me, and Nate Oates had a really good team last year. Is it common late in the game for him to let them keep playing and keep running the same style and not really make a play call or try to draw something up, or is that just early in the year wanting his guys to play through it? Talk me through that a little bit, because it seemed like they just kept going, and they got a tough look for Shackelford. Then he made one, and then was it Quinterly that got a shot blocked when he's going in for the drive?
Yeah.
So kind of tell me through the process of letting your team play a little bit, or trying to be a little more methodical, or even calling timeout and drawing something up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to it's hard to pinpoint exactly what Nate Oates is thinking late. I think if you got some, I know it's kind of here and there, but if you kind of got some momentum, I think that you let your guys play. I mean, that's what they're used to, is letting them play. Honestly, it depends. I don't know if he liked a matchup. Obviously, they made 2 tough shots over Ellis. I don't know if he was in a hurry, if he lost track of time, if he wanted Shaq in the game late or not. I mean, I don't really know what goes into that, but I feel like that it was back and forth. Obviously, they know win by 4, but I don't know if he was trying to get a transition basket, an easy basket, maybe a layup or something on the break. But going forward, I mean, I think that's kind of what is different from game to game. If there's no rhythm and there's no one making shots, maybe call a quick 30-second timeout, bring Shackelford back in the game, and then move on. But I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint that one thing.
I'm not being critical of it either. I was just curious if that's something that he just does, because that's usually a Bruce Pearl thing. And Cody and I talked about it after the UConn game. There were a couple opportunities where Bruce could have called a timeout, and even when you're winning by 1 or 2, and put your best group out there. And I thought he probably should have, but early in the year especially, he's like, I want him to play through everything. I want him to get that experience. So, Cody, you have any thoughts on that? Alabama not doing that, Auburn not doing that may have cost them both, or it may not have, but what's kind of your thinking, and does it change in November as opposed to February?
Well, kind of like what Riley was saying is hopefully you figure out who your closing rotation's or closing lineup's going to be. I can't remember off the top of my head, but was Juwan Gary, was he out that game?
He played.
He came back.
Yeah, he played the whole game.
Yeah, he was kind of in the closing group, and then they took him out when they went smaller, and I think Gurley was in the closing group as the biggest guy out there most of the time.
Yeah. That's another thing. When somebody like a team like Iona that's playing really good perimeter defense, you would like to see your big guys step up a little bit more. I think, of course, I always feel like I'm harping on Bediako because he's really young, but he didn't really impact, in my opinion, didn't really impact the game that much as far as enforcing his will down low. And that might have been a place where they could have took a little bit of advantage to Iona. But he also, again, he's young. I think that during the tournament that they played in, J.D. Davison, and of course, I don't know if this needed to be shown to me because I kind of already knew it, but he's not scared. I think he impacts the game a lot. I mean, a lot. I think he's a really good basketball player. And then just another thing is, especially like in the Iona game, Keon Ellis obviously struggled defensively, but also offensively he kind of struggled. I think he had 4 points. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, he had 4 points, 8 rebounds.
And when kind of my eyes said that he just wasn't really impacting games. We always go back to Herb, and I'm like a broken record bringing him up, but when Herb wasn't filling up the box score, he was impacting the game, and that's something that I haven't seen from the last 3 games or Iona and Drake. I haven't really seen somebody filling that void as far as playmaking or getting offensive start when Quinterly goes out, or if it's not transition, then there's not really a lot of organized, I guess, offensive play calling going on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Only 7 assists for Alabama in that game. That's a low number. Alabama's the team that whips it around, a good bit usually. So that was a little low, but like Riley said, kind of get exposed a little bit in a few areas. Rick Pitino, obviously a great coach, and those kids were ready to play. I thought one thing, their big guys could score a little bit, could step away a little bit. That kind of affected how Alabama wanted to play with theirs too. But like y'all said, going into the next day, that's kind of the statement of how you're going to play this season. Alabama got a 9-point win over Drake. I don't know a lot about Drake, but they seem to have some respect going into the game. 8-man rotation for Alabama. They kind of cut down on some of those little minutes that a few guys got, like Chico and Ambrose Hilton. Those guys didn't play at all in the Drake game. Davison only 20 minutes in the Drake game. I don't know if they're he says he has no fouls. Any thoughts on Davison only getting 20 minutes in that Drake game with Shackford 37 and Quinterly 35?
So
Those stats have been about the same most nights. They've been in the 30s, but usually Davison's just like 3 or 4 minutes behind them.
yeah, I think Davison was. I mean, this is kind of a not filling out period, but you're kind of getting adjusted. There's a little bit of adjustment for him, and he had 7 turnovers that game. I think
Oh, wow.
5 or 6 were in the first half. So he was just, he was just out of control sometimes, making some careless turnovers, which you can expect. I mean, as a freshman coming in, the way Nados wants to play, there's going to be turnovers. You know how fast they want to play, but like I said, yeah, I think that was the key problem, and they kind of leaned on those veteran guards late, especially in the second half, to kind of take control of the offense and moving forward. And I think that game, which is kind of impressive, is Davidson moved on to the Miami game, and he played really well. I think he was close to a triple double. So he came back and kind of showed, he scored in transition, but he also knows how to pass, and he's a smart player. A lot of those turnovers too. I know the Drake game where it was a lot of missed jump stops, driving to the basket out of control, jump in the air, pass. And it's a lot of avoidable, charges that you can, come on 2 feet and then make the pass, or, see that the help's coming and try to avoid it. But you're going to have those growing pains early. But like I said, I think that the biggest thing was sticking with it and moving on to the next game.
Looks like the biggest rotation difference in this game is Juwan Gary, 27 minutes in this game, started over, I guess, Gurley, you'd say 17 minutes for Gurley. Both of them are efficient. Gurley, 4 of 6, 3 rebounds. He had 8 points, had 4 fouls. Gary also had 4 fouls. He was 6 of 9 from the field, 14 points, 10 rebounds. Let's talk a little Juwan Gary. I think he's a favorite of all of ours on here. What do y'all think of the decision to insert him a little bit more? Is that just him being back healthy and they're happy with it, and that was the plan all along, or is he kind of surpassing Gurley a little bit?
I think it's a little bit of I think Nate needed something different. You lose to Iona, and I don't think you start the game the way you want to start. And I think he needed a little spark. I think he said, we're going to start Gary, but the thing he's drilled home is he calls it the first 5. He don't have starters. I mean, if you look at it, Davidson could easily be a starter on a lot of different teams, but Davidson's willing to come off the bench. And he said it's good to have people that can score the ball and do some stuff for us coming off the bench. That way we're not, all my scorers or all my, rebounders are starting. Then when I go to my subs, it's nobody, I don't really have a lot coming off the bench. So I don't know. I think I kind of like it. Gurley responded well. I mean, like you said, 4 or 6 from the field, 8 points, 3 rebounds. So I think they're going to stick with it. I think, Gary, obviously he's not going to, make a lot of threes, but like I said, he's going to get a lot of rebounds. He's going to get a lot of trash buckets around the rim. And his big thing, he knows his role. So I think insert him in the lineup and, give him some effort out there and give him some fire and good start is big for, Alabama going forward.
And I think it's a role thing. Cody, what do you think about that, man? When they're playing with some guards that are kind of skilled guards and they're out there making, you need a couple like junkyard dog type guys in there. And maybe Gary right now is better at that than Gurley, and maybe even better than Bediako at the moment until he, gets a little bit more to him. What are your thoughts on just sometimes it's not necessarily the better player, but the better fit in a role on a team?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So I was trying to look for stats that kind of justified my eye test or backed up my eye test when comparing. I keep comparing Juwan Gary to Noah Gurley. I know they kind of feel the same, or are supposed to. They play the same position, kind of get the same kind of minutes, or were getting the same kind of minutes and stuff for Alabama's rotation. And I know PER is kind of a little flawed, but just throw the stat out here. So Juwan Gary's PER is 25.4%, and then Noah Gurley's is at 11.9, which is it's the lowest of Alabama's rotation on what the 9 or 10 guys they're rotating out. And that's kind of showing me, or that's telling me what I'm seeing is, Gary is just impacting the game on a lot of different levels. From just, like you said, getting junkyard buckets because you have guards that can fill it up, and there's a lot of long offensive rebounds or shots coming off the rim for him to clean up. But I don't, his defensive presence, he just is doing things. To simplify, he's just impacting the game, and just to me, he's a lot. I mean, obviously he's very injury prone. His history is showing that. Hopefully, he can stay on the court for Alabama to be the best version of themselves, because I really think that that's important. He fills a lot of gaps in like a young Bidiaco down there in the front line, and wings / forwards that can rebound and also get the other players involved. He feels a lot. He's a stopgap for a lot of those kind of shortcomings that Alabama's roster has.
Yeah, I'm right there. And I think Bidiaco is built to be that guy. I think when he gets there, he's going to be catching lobs and, all these putbacks that Alabama's not really getting right now. I think he's going to be the guy. It's just going to take some time. Anything else on that game before we move into Miami a little bit? So kind of my thought process is you change up a few things after Iona. You have some success against Drake. You don't love everything about it. It seems like they kind of went with that group to start the game, and then some different stuff against Miami. I think Miami's KenPom was like over 100. Like, they're not supposed to be very good. Raul, you said they played UCF earlier in the year.
UCF beat them by, I believe, 7 maybe.
Yeah, it's just not one of Miami's stronger teams. They're in the tournament, those third game in 4 days or however Alabama did. They had like a break on Saturday or whatever. So a few different things, just looking at rotation wise. Obviously, the big thing was Ambrose Hilton getting 20 minutes off the bench. Bidiaco's in foul trouble. He had 4 fouls, but he had 14 minutes, and Ambrose Hilton with 20. That kind of jumps out to me. Gurley only with 13. Gary was 16. So that was kind of interesting. Any thoughts to that to start off with? He's a hustle player too, from what I've seen, right? Ambrose Hilton's just kind of an energy guy, bouncing around a little bit in there.
It's like he brings energy, gets some rebounds, tries to alter some shots, putbacks, just stuff around the rim. He's not gonna jump out on you, on the stat sheet, but he's just a good role player. I think the key takeaways from this game is, I listened to a post-game press conference of Nate Oates, and he was talking about, they asked him about Keon Ellis, and he was 8 of 11 from the floor, 5 of 6 from 3 with 22 points. And his big thing was Keon's been shooting the ball really, really well in practice, and he just hadn't been seeing the benefits. And finally, it's good to see some balls go through the hoops, especially from 3, especially a guy that you're counting on to score some points for you. He really jumped off the page. Obviously, Shaq had 15. He's 5 of 9 from 3, pretty efficient. And then the other one we talked about earlier was J.D. Davison, 6 of 8, 1 of 2 from 3, but he had 13 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. He had 3 turnovers in the game. So 10 assists and 3 turnovers was a lot better. And a lot of freshmen, are going to be upset that, they didn't play a lot the game. They're having 7 turnovers and they're going to sulk the next game and be, pouty. But this shows the kind of character and kind of guy he is. He's going to bounce back, shake it off, and he's going to get back at it and just keep playing. That's the biggest thing is for these freshmen is just, you're going to have a bad game, just get back in there and play. And I thought he bounced back really well. Like you said, Ambrose Hilton gave some minutes. Darius Miles gave some minutes. But going forward, a lot of these guys got a lot of rotational minutes because Alabama kind of was pulling them away pretty late, and they want to get some playing time. But moving forward, I see a solid 8-man rotation, especially this weekend in Seattle. Solid 8 guys.
The team stat that jumped out to me in this tournament was 7 assists. I think the first game, 11 the second, and then like 22 in the third. So obviously they shot the ball better, but they whipped it around a good bit better. Any concern about Quinterly's game at all? I mean, is there a way for all 3 of your guards to play well at one time, or 4 when you add Keon? It seems like one of them every game has not really had a great game.
Yeah, and I don't know. Quinterly struggled shooting the ball, even from the free throw line. He's a really good free throw shooter. Struggled from the free throw line. He struggled from 3. He was 1 of 4 against Miami, but I don't think there's any concern. I just think that he played 24 minutes. I think Davison was playing well, so Davison got more minutes, obviously with 10 assists and 13 points. So I don't think there's any concern going forward. He's a veteran player. He's been in the system. He knows how college basketball works. Maybe if this was a freshman, you'd be kind of looking like, is he going to get out of the slump or, shake back? But I think him being a veteran presence and, he knows what it's going to take to compete at that level. I mean, being the SEC tournament MVP, he knows how good he has to play and how good we can be when he plays that well. So I think he'll be shaking out of it pretty soon.
I feel better about that because he proved a lot of that last year, and he didn't have the ball in his hands all the time last year either. That would be something like if he last year had the ball in his hands, and then this year, Davison's getting it more, Shaq's getting it more. He kind of played both ways with the ball without, so that's why I have some confidence that he'll be fine in that situation.
To go along with what you said, just real quick, they mentioned that they asked, Nate, I think, told one of the announcers, Damian Fishback, I think who it was saying, when Quinterly and Davison are in the game together, Davison's getting the point. So Davis is playing the point. So Quinterly's going to play off the ball. So he's not going to have the ball in his hands as much as he would, obviously, with the ball. So I think I like that because, Herb brought the ball up a lot last year, kind of moved him to the wing, took some pressure off him handling the ball so much, and he could, spot up and knock down some shots. So maybe they get some more of that here soon.
I would like to see Davison get a little better off the ball. That's probably just something he hasn't done much in his life. When you're at a 2A school and you're dominating, he doesn't. I don't know. I could be wrong. He seems kind of standing around the outside waiting on somebody to make a play when he doesn't have the ball.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it's a lot of, you're 7 games in, you're trying to figure out, what other people are trying to do. Maybe if you're coming off ball screen, back cut your guy or, move without the ball. And that's a lot you got to pick up. But Shaq's kind of learned. Keon Ellis is kind of good at moving without the ball and cutting behind your defense and doing all kinds of different cuts. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
Something I noticed, Riley, and you mentioned it earlier, it was the Drake game that JD struggled a little bit dribbling it in too far and getting called up. I thought he did really good in Miami. I think he had 10 assists against Miami where he was dribbling in. He'd stop around 15 feet and start looking for a guy on the 3-point line.
Yeah.
He looked like he had, kind of take some lessons learned from the last game and was, just looked more proficient out there passing.
My favorite thing they've done offensively, and they haven't done a ton of it, but I really like empty corner ball screens with Bediako and JD. They seem to have a little knack, and he's used to it. He'll put him in a tough spot every now and then, throw him a little short roll that he's still not ready for, but he seems to have a knack of when to throw the lob. I like that action between the two of them. Just so athletic, it's hard to beat those two guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they did a lot of that middle ball screen. Like you said, it was a lot. I know you're talking about side ball screen. They did some middle ball screen, and JD kind of put pressure on the defense because he's so quick. And then,
I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, you have to sink so far. In the air,
and you could literally probably dunk it, and he just tosses it up to Bediako. I mean, it's kind of it's a good, and it's easy. It's an easy read for him. One, because Bediako's so big, but obviously if there's a guy in front of Bediako, it's probably the guy in the corner. Man, you kick it out for a 3. So he's understanding. I think he's getting the hang of it.
Let me ask y'all one Shaq question because, I mean, he's had up and down, I think, so far this year. I mean, he's pretty much gotten his numbers every game. It's just depending on how efficient it is. But he was so deadly in the corner, man. The last couple of years, that dude must have shot 45% from corner 3. And then when guys are running at him, all of a sudden you're so much better off the dribble. I feel like he's doing a little bit more now, a little bit more stuff from the wing, taking the ball a little bit more. What's kind of the balance of, hey, this is what you're really good at, we're going to keep you right here and let our other guys go, or hey, we want to get more out of you, we think you've got a higher ceiling, we're going to work you around a little bit more?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he shot the ball really well from the corner this past tournament, but guys they scout just like anybody else and just run these guys off the 3-point line, especially Shaq. Don't let him get his feet set. And I think that's something that he worked on in the offseason. I don't know for certain, but I'm sure that's one of the things that he got back from the NBA. The feedback he got was, we know you can knock down a 3. What can you do when they run at you, run you off the line? And I think he's gotten really good at it. He's made some good decisions, but I think Nate's kind of want him to be a more all-around player. Just looking at the way his game is, he's handling the ball a good bit more than he was last year. He's leading fast breaks. He's doing a little bit more defensively. So I think he wants him to be all-around kind of, off the dribble, catch and shoot, do a lot of things that, I know we bring up his name a lot, but Herb would do, drive to the basket, get people open. But no, I think he's averaging 18 points a game, which is kind of, I think he's maybe a little bit higher than what he was last season. But obviously, yeah, that's his biggest thing is because, guys are going to run you off the 3-point line.
So we won't get into it too deep, but just a little preview of Saturday. Riley, just thinking about the game. What are your thoughts on? We were talking about what the line might be. I mean, do you think Gonzaga is just that tier above Alabama where they can't compete? Or I mean, like let's talk about it just a little bit.
So I'm glad that Iona exposed some of the stuff that the other teams are gonna expose, which is 5 of 17 from three. And we saw the Miami game, they got up 30. They were 16 of 30. So they want to get up a lot of threes, double of what they got up against Iona, and they ended up losing. So I think they got to figure out ways to score the ball other than three, which is let Davidson be explosive and move the ball. But defensively, I think what's very big going into the game is one, Chet Holmgren.
How many minutes until Jawan Gary has 2 fouls in the first half?
That's what I'm saying. So the matchup problem is going to be what big, because then you got Timmy inside. Obviously, you're going to have to match Gary up on Holmgren, but I mean, you can't, because Bidiaco is going to be, having to get up on Timmy. I just think it's going to be a tough matchup defensively. I mean, Nate's going to have them prepared. I mean, they're going to have a game plan. They're not going to go into a game knowing that what their strength is, and Gonzaga's going to try to get the ball in. And what I think I'm going to see a lot of is there's going to be a lot of doubles. I don't know if it's on the catch, on the dribble. I know when I was at Alabama, when we played a dominant post player, Karl Anthony Towns, it was my freshman year. It was when the ball's in the air, you should be doubling him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like you should be there, and then the backside's going to rotate. But I mean, Gonzaga is so good, and they're so well coached. You can tell that they act like they've been playing together for 7 or 8 years.
Nimard looks like he's been there forever. Like he's looking really good.
He looks really good. And they got a guy named Razir Bolton who played at Iowa State who is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
He's very wiry, but he's very, very quick, gets a lot of steals, can knock down an open three. They got a freshman that came in last year, a 5-star recruit who's really good. He's big. But the big thing for Gonzaga, I know they're going to try to work it inside. Alabama's undersized, work it inside. So the big thing is defensively, what are we going to do? I think offensively, we can which Chet Holmgren's shown he can guard a little bit, but it's going to be hard to go with Gurley at the 5 just because of the size that Gonzaga's got. But it's going to be interesting to see how they match up. Neutral site game in Seattle. It's not really neutral, but it's going to be a tough atmosphere for sure.
Cody, what are your thoughts kind of going in that from the outside point of view? Watched Gonzaga a little bit, watched Alabama a good bit this year, like expecting a basketball game, expecting a double-digit win for the Zags, or what are we thinking here?
Now, I think that obviously if I was going to put money on it, I'd probably go with the Bulldogs, but Alabama has the tools to beat them. I mean, they're as athletic as anybody in the country. And
I worry about their size. I just worry about their size in this matchup.
If the game devolves into, getting up and down the court as fast as possible, I like Alabama in that sprint match. They got the guys that can leave you in the dust and score in transition. But Gonzaga's been there, done that, very experienced team. Or they know what Alabama's got and what their strengths are. But if Alabama is able to force their will, then I can see Alabama pulling an upset here with
I think they'll compete too. One thing I think makes it a little bit better. Yeah. Well, Gonzaga, they're big, but they're a transition team too. If you look at KenPom, they got the 36th highest pace in the country, and Alabama's 20th. I mean, they want to run up and down too. They want to play fun, loose basketball. I think that's a good fit for Alabama. Now, I just worry late in the game or late in the shot clock, can you defend when they get it to one of their big guys?
So the big thing is Alabama's got to find a way to get them in foul trouble. They're big men.
They did against Duke, right? I mean, both of them had 2 fouls pretty quick.
Yeah, so Duke's, they got I think Williams, their center that starts, he might be around 7 foot, 6'11", 7 foot, but Darrow's their 4. He's 6'10", but he's not some powerful like defensive stopper that's going to stop 7'2" Holmgren from scoring. But you saw him be physical, make him take some tough twos, get up in him on the perimeter, make him go around him. Obviously Holmgren's skilled, but they got to find ways to, like you said, go at Holmgren. I know he got foul trouble in the first half, and it's like you got to find ways to get some cheap fouls on him, whether you're driving him, shot faking him, doing something. But I think they're I think Alabama, Nate, that's one thing. They're gonna compete. They're gonna play hard, but like I said, you gotta make shots. That's the big thing. Guards, you got to show up. Quinterly's got to be really good. Davidson's got to be really good. But
if those turnovers happen, like it'll get ugly. They cannot turn the basketball over like that.
No, absolutely not. Turnovers have got to be to a minimum. And the games that they've done really, really well, they have a high assist category. So they got to be moving the ball and letting it bounce around and trying to make, one step ahead of the defense is what we always said. But it's interesting to see. I'm glad they're playing this type of tournament to kind of tell where you are, because obviously Gonzaga's in the national championship conversation every single year.
That's what Cody and I kind of talked about. And I'm not saying UConn's at that level, but that game told us that we belonged. It told us that Auburn belonged, and they were going to be fine against about anybody. It's kind of how I feel about it. I think Gonzaga could still win by 10, and you still think Alabama belongs. But I think, just looking at KenPom, Gonzaga's #1 in the country. They're second in offense, 11th in defense. But Alabama's 13, and they're 11th in offense and 29th in defense. Just an update there. Auburn's up to 19, 21st in offense, 30th in defense. So we got a lot of good basketball teams. Cody, you got anything else on Gonzaga, Alabama before we move on to kind of the last big picture question?
Oh, you just always got to fear Bama's upside. Like you said, when they're whipping the ball around and when it's right, it's really right. They're dangerous and it can pour it on you really quick. And if Gonzaga gets caught in that whirlwind, then, that Bama can win the basketball game. But, more times than not, Gonzaga's not going to let it get to that. So, but, that's why you play the game.
So last big picture question, kind of end on tonight, is now we're a few games in and we've seen a tournament. Both teams, Auburn and Alabama, each of y'all answer this question as much detail or as shortly as you want to. Do you feel better about this team than you did going into game one, or do you feel worse, or do you feel about the same?
I'll go first, I guess. I feel a lot better. We mentioned it earlier. The way we bounced back after the UConn loss, as me and Alex had discussed, we think it was a positive, but the emotional drain and the bounce back that you have to come and play a tough Loyola team after that and a win, and then follow that up with a Syracuse who's got a pedigree of winning. I feel a lot better about this team, especially with all the new pieces that we accumulated from last season. It just kind of shows you how Bruce has got that team and the chemistry right with them, and it just seems like we're trending in the right direction. Kessler's playing better, Jabari's growing up, our guards are in, everywhere. And if two of them are having a bad game, one's having a good game. If two, you just kind of can pick your poison right there. We still need Flan back. I think that's kind of a glaring flaw or weak spot in our team is production from the wing spot. But I come off with a net positive. I think that I just feel positive. I think that we're trending in the right direction.
So Cody says he feels better about Auburn a month ago, or that he does right now. He feels better about Auburn than he did a month ago. Riley, start with Auburn. Do you feel better, worse, or the same than you did a month ago or going into the season?
About Auburn? Yeah, I feel better about Auburn. I didn't know. I mean, it's kind of what Cody said. You don't really know what you're going to get when you have some transfers. You got 3 transfers in. You got, or actually 4. You starting
4 for plus Jabari, yeah.
Yeah, for the true freshman. Flanagan's out. I mean, you're looking at, they could easily be 500 or below 500, not knowing what these players can give. But I think Bruce done a good job of getting them to buy into what he's preaching. They play really hard, and you can tell they're sharing the ball and they play defense and they're aggressive. I think, I would have thought Auburn wouldn't be where they are right now if you'd have asked me before the season, just from how good they're playing right now. So I feel better about where they are.
That's how I feel too. I echo pretty much both of y'all's statements there. New guys, I expected some good individual performances early on and not knowing what they'd look like as a team. And they seem to really like each other and they like playing together. And Kessler is as good or better than I thought. Jabari is as good or better than I thought. The guards, I just really didn't know. I know they produced at a lower level. but I'm impressed. Honestly, all things ago, we'll just see what happens when Flanagan's there and they keep playing good opponents. Another thing, they've won in a lot of different situations. They've won at home. They've won against a zone team like Syracuse, having to score a lot of points. Gutsy win or gutsy loss against UConn, beat a slow down Loyola team. I'm impressed by all the different ways they've had to play. UCF came out and tried to be physical tonight, tried to run up and down a little bit, and that didn't work out either. So, all in all, I feel better about this Auburn team. Because last year was a struggle, even with or without Sharif. If I'd been coming off the year before that and Auburn had 25 wins with a Okoro and they were getting ready for the tournament, maybe not. But coming off last year, you don't take it for granted anymore. It's not just going to be good every year. So I feel better. I'll start with Alabama. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer, but I feel about the same. I feel like there's more still unknowns where I haven't seen them play together against a really good opponent and do a whole lot. Obviously, Miami was probably the best that we've seen them play, but then you question a little bit about how good Miami is. But I have a lot of ceiling with this team. I think there's a high ceiling. I don't know if they can play as many ways as Auburn can play. I think Alabama could get really good at their style. I think they could get really good, and that runs people off the court. They did last year over and over and over. We talk about Herb all the time. They really miss that guy. They really miss somebody that can play a lot of different styles like he can. So I don't feel worse about Alabama. I like their guys. Can't wait to watch them play Saturday. And then they've got a couple more really tough games coming up. So we'll know a lot more in 2 weeks. But I would say I feel about the same going into the season, which was a preseason top 25 team. I didn't think they're going to be bad or anything. So I'd say the same about Alabama. Cody, what about you?
Yeah, I feel about the same. I think we're coming off a little negative on them, but I don't think the Iona loss is that bad. Like Raleigh said, Rick Pitino's the coach. He's going to get the absolute best out of whatever he has. He's proven that, as slippery and slimy as he may be. But so I don't really knock their performance. You had a bad shooting night again. Well, yeah, you had a bad shooting night against a team that's really good at defending outside shots. But like you said, I was really thinking that Bama was going to be the more flexible team as far as being able to do different rotations and stuff. But I think we're kind of seeing, and we're, like you said, we're going to find out a lot more about the team going forward shortly. But they're not as maybe deep as we were thinking. I think that there are a few really key guys that they have to have playing really well, which, is probably a good bet because, these guys are good basketball players, and they're probably going to bring it more times than not. But, the Keon Ellis's and the Juwan Carey's and, the obviously the 3 guards, they got to play their A game for Alabama to be as potent as they can be. I was thinking that they got 10 guys that are all interchangeable kind of a little bit going into the season. I think that's not the case. I think they got some key guys, and that needs to be their primary rotation.
Hey, Riley, before you answer this, is the transfer from Texas Tech that got hurt, is he out, or is there a chance that he could come back later on?
I think he's out. He tore his ACL preseason, so I think he's out for the year. Which hurt. Because I was going to add another 6'6", 6'7" long wing to your.
He would have made a lot of sense on that.
He was really defensive minded. Just reading about him from being at Texas Tech and in high school, he really prided himself on the defensive end. But like I said, it's kind of one of those things where you're out for the season. So
gotcha. So is there anything else? I know Drew's talked up the Chico guy a good bit, and he's starting to get in a little bit. We think we might get more out of him.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen him. Obviously, last year he was hurt or redshirted, and then early this season he missed the first couple of games and trying to get in the rotation. And they really like Bediako a lot. His upside is really good, but it's just going through some growing pains right now of being consistent in and every game. I think that's the biggest thing for Alabama is being consistent. To go along with your question, though, me, and I'm not saying this because I played there or I knew, but being inside of a locker room and knowing how good you can be and to go 26-7 or something like that last year, make a Sweet 16, you lose the Defensive Player of the Year, SEC Player of the Year, and I knew how much it was going to affect him just because I've been in the locker room with Herb Jones, played with him, practiced every single day. Dude didn't miss a practice. One of the best teammates I've ever had. I knew what kind of guy they were. He was a leader, and obviously he wasn't the most vocal, the in-your-face type guy, but you fed off the way he played every single game. So I knew going into this year, we have to fill a big void. Yes, we're talented. We can shoot the ball. We got all these guards coming back. We're veteran, but we have to fill a big void that did so much for us. So me looking at, I'm kind of the positive aspect of, I don't think Alabama's played their best game with everybody clicking at the same time. I think that, Cornerly hadn't played really good the last couple of games, but, Keon Ellis played good one of those games. And then maybe Shackelford played good 2 or 3 of those games. But, Davidson's, figuring it out. He's starting to figure it out. So I'm really anxious to see when it starts clicking. Obviously you don't expect a loss to Iona, but like I said, those, West Kentucky happened last year. Those slip ups are going to happen every now and then, but going forward, like I said, I think it's going to be interesting. I just think the consistency is the biggest thing that's going to, make or break this team, is because they're all clicking on the same time and playing really well like they were the last half of last year. Then they're going to be a tough team to beat. But
they were forcing their will on people last year at the end of the year. I mean, man, they were taking you out of everything you want to do on both ends.
And it was a lot of, in the offensive side, right? It was a lot of, if you look back at the games late in the year when Nate Oates had started with a Tennessee game, first SEC game at Tennessee, and they said, I think it was the first one, but anyways, he said, well, scrap it. We're gonna put Herb at the point. We're going to put people off the ball. We're in the middle ball screen. Herb's a good decision maker. If they help, we're going to find the open shooter. We're going to drive, close out. We're just going to play physical. And, Herb took a lot of their best players out of the game. So, when your best players out of the game on defensively, you get a stop and you can run. It's just that's where we got to, Alabama has to find somebody consistently on the defensive end that can create havoc. Because if you watch Auburn right now, I think Auburn's ahead of Alabama defensively right now just because they force you to make turnovers. They pressure you. You watch Jasper, he's in the backcourt, picking at the ball, making you turn. And, it don't look like a lot as a spectator, but as a player, having been there, you get tired. When it's 37 minutes into the game, you're tired. You don't want anybody to sit there and try, and eventually he's going to get a steal and a fast break and knock the crowd. So I think on the defensive end, that's the thing where, got to take more charges. Got to do more little stuff, but it's early. Like I said, Auburn, Alabama's got a lot to look forward to this season, I believe. I think they're gonna, there's a lot of potential, high ceilings for both teams, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wasn't trying to be negative. I just kind of wanted to take a snapshot of where we are now, as opposed to 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we'll do this again probably right after Christmas and say, how do we feel going into SEC play compared to going into that Gonzaga game, and hopefully everything starts clicking. But both teams are very highly thought of right now, so we're in a good spot. Y'all got anything else before we bounce out of here for the week?
If they manage to win 2 of these next 3, then we'll be feeling a lot better about Alabama.
What's after Gonzaga, just to keep it out there? What's Alabama got early next week? Or no, isn't it like weird? They play like Saturday and then don't play again until Saturday again or something?
Alabama's got a tough 3-game stretch. They start with Gonzaga, obviously, on Saturday. Then the next Saturday, I think finals week, they usually don't play on finals week, which is the following next week. And so they got Houston at home that next Saturday. And then they go to Memphis the following Tuesday. So they got, at Gonzaga, Houston at home, at Memphis. Tough 3-game stretch. And they close out non-conference at the end with Colorado State, who is one of the top mid-majors out there. They're really, really good. I think they're 8-0 right now. So
yeah, they're good.
It's gonna be tough, but like I said, it's when you figure out, kind of what your identity is and moving forward, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's one thing. You can't knock Alabama's for out of conference strength. They're playing some big boys. But the only thing is the SEC's up this year, so you might not want those lumps and bruises going into your
your record might not look
resume,
as good as your team is going to look. Yeah.
Start with Tennessee. I think we start with Tennessee to open up. So it's going to be SEC play, but If y'all got any running backs, y'all don't mind. Alabama's gonna need a couple this weekend. We're down.
I'm not talking about the football game.
It's basketball season, football season.
Hey.
I was almost bought back in there for a little while. I was almost bought back in.
Hey, I know y'all were. Y'all almost, if y'all don't won, it would have been, football season 2.0. No, but
I still wouldn't have slept since then, I don't think.
yeah, it was a crazy game, but
I still have a hangover. I still
all right,
probably
we
do
got
already.
big ones coming up Saturday. If Alabama knocks off Gonzaga, I guarantee we have some kind of instant reaction show for it. Otherwise, we'll get back in here next week and talk about that game and then preview upcoming, because after that will be another couple good games, like y'all said, Houston for Alabama, and I think Nebraska for Auburn and Atlanta. So a lot of stuff to look forward to. But thanks for joining us this week on Heating Up. We'll be back next week.